All right. It's been a little bit since I've been live. Interesting. Let's check these out. Not heard of that. Have I not heard of that? Not heard of that one. Just, well, I could hear about them. Let's see. What's going on, Red Rum? How's it going? How's it going? Chicken, what? But I know you found. Okay. So that didn't tell me anything really. Alright. Whew. I went to go see my paternal grandparents today. They live up in Sewanee, Johns Creek, Georgia, north of Atlanta. They're doing all right. My grandfather, he's just living out what he's got left with prostate cancer. In fact, they've got him in a hospice care program now, so there's people who come around, which seems like that'll help out a little bit. Yep. So we'll see how things go in that regard. I did get to give him a copy of Orange Crush, though, because earlier this year when I was talking with Joshua up in Huntsville one day, I got on the topic of him somehow and was telling him I wanted to get the book out in time for him to be able to read it. And if it didn't happen and my grandfather were to die before then I would want to put a dedication in the front of the book. That didn't happen. I was able to give my grandparents a copy today, which I was very happy about. And I know that if I'd have been still at my hotel job, there's a very reasonable possibility I wouldn't have been able to go today, because there's been plenty of times that my father has traveled up there for a day trip like this, and I haven't been able to go. And now I'm not, I stopped working there, and so they're not taking up my time, and I'm not wasting it there dealing with micromanagement and incompetence. So they have a copy of that, which is great. So at least that's it. If the book had come out and then he'd have died without me having given him a copy, I'd have been really upset. I'd have been really upset about that. I mean, if that would have happened, I would have rather him have died before the book came out and then added a dedication in the front of it. But thankfully that didn't happen, and I was able to get him a copy. Really good. Oh, good. Thank gosh. So the only copy of Orange Crush I have left is my personal copy. I'm going to try to get some more inventory from Joshua. So if anybody wants a copy of Orange Crush, I can't help you right now. Joshua's supposed to be reimbursing me for some costs, and when I do that, I'm going to tell him however much 10 copies is, take that amount off of what you're going to give me and just send me 10 copies instead. Okay, it says there's 2 people watching. I don't know who this second person is. Still waiting for we deliver. Did I know you ordered a copy of Orange Crush? I forget if you told me, and I don't remember. You know what? Now it's coming back to me. Yeah, here you go. On October 2nd, you told me about it. Man, this friggin' Dan pre-ordered it, and another guy pre-ordered it, and neither of them got theirs until I reminded Joshua of it. So, he's got to pick up the shipping. In fact, I'm gonna draft something real quick. Okay, I'm gonna just draft that for now. All right. Shipping $5. Yeah. I don't think shipping's that much, and you'll probably get it in one of Huntsville Independent Press's blue envelopes. Yeah, what is this? How much shipping is? What if I were to press buy now? Like I'm gonna buy my book on breaking off of Huntsman Better Press. Okay. Okay. Anyway. Yeah, but alright. Oh, so hopefully we'll get that squared away. So I'll probably send a message to Joshua tomorrow about your copy. I wish I could see who was watching. I wonder if Hats is watching this just to troll me. Because he said he's going to start charging people to come to us, for him to come to people's streams. Have to get an autograph next time I see you. That's absolutely fine. And I don't think you'll get this. In fact, I'm pretty sure you won't when you get your copy from Huntsville Independent Press. But when you do, when I do sign it for you, well, first of all, I'm going to ask you if you want orange or navy blue. But I also need to remember to give you a bookmark because we had bookmarks made, but I took all the bookmarks. He just placed the order and I paid for them. I bought them and he's just the one who facilitated it. And I took all the bookmarks so that I could use them at, spread them around in Houston. And I've still got a bunch left on them, I've got 2 stacks about that big. I'm not in any danger of running out of bookmarks. And if I get to that point, I'll probably just go to Joshua and try to get some more. Because this was... Yeah, okay. Yeah, we got 200 bookmarks. Okay, 200 bookmarks. Orange Sharpie, all right. I don't know when next time will be. I think. Well, no, I don't think. The plan is for alternative baseball to return to Rickwood Field next November. Just like we did last year, our big national event is supposed to be at Rickwood Field again. And that was planned like earlier this year that we'd go back next November. But I might see you before then. I don't know. Just depends. Yeah, just depend. See what happens. Yeah, that was suggested to me by Art Black. Art Black's a guy. If you ever go to that Rick Woodfield conference room shop, um, there are 3 books that he's written about Rick Woodfield in there. Nice guy. I've met him, and he suggested that when I had Umpire Diary, and then of course I've got Orange Crush now too. I was told because he told me he taught somebody else, and I mentioned it to him. I think he said like they take a like trying to find the best way to articulate it so I don't misspeak. Um, I assume whatever the sell price is, like if I guess if we had it for sale there for, let's say we did it for $25. The online price is, well, the base price is a little under 20. It's $19.98. The cover price is $22.99. Let's say we did it for 25, or let's say we did it for $22.99 because that's what's written on there. And then they take. Now I'd have to talk to somebody else too, but this guy was telling me they usually take 50% of that. Okay, so that would be $11.49.5. So $11.50. Okay. So essentially, one of us get 11, the other one get 11, and then there'd be an extra $1 that I guess we'd have to work out who gets what. And I would have to see it be, if I was going to make a decision like that, I would want to talk to Joshua and see what is the print cost. Because if this is a $20 book, it doesn't cost $20 to print it. Like, for example, Umpire Diary, if I was going to buy here, I like transparency. So I'll show you. Or I think I will anyways. Let me make sure I'm logged into the right Amazon account. Okay. Dog, that's not Rick Wood on because well, that's the thing. Rick Wood's already taken that $11. Now if you want to give them the extra $1, that's. I mean, I guess that'd be okay. Again, a lot of it would depend on how much the print cost of the book is, and so and how much money, would I be making? It's one thing to get money back that you spent. It's another thing to actually earn more. Okay, here we go. So for Umpire Diary, for example, I can show you Umpire Diary because I have access to the page here. Orange Crush, that's Joshua has that page. And of course, it's not published through KDP, Kindle Direct Publishing. Okay, so this is List A paperback hardcover. Okay, let's say I was going to order author copy of the paperback. As the author, I can get author copies for significantly less than the listed price, because it doesn't cost as much to print the book, as the sell price. If a book's $20, it doesn't cost $20. It costs a lot less. So then that allows me to make money. So let's say I was going to order an author copy of the paperback version. Let's say I'm just going to get one. Let's do one so we can really see what it is. All right. I guess we'll just do Amazon.com right there. All right. Let's add that to the cart. Okay. So look at that. $3.23 for a book that its list price on Amazon is $15.99. That's what I'm referring to here. So, if I were to, of course, I know Rickwood Field, they said they prefer hardcovers. So let's look at the hardcover version. And I understand that. I wish I could see how much the print cost was. What author copy? Hardcover. Let's try again with one. Okay, what's the print cost of a hardcover? $7.88. All right, for a usually $20 book. All right. So if $20 book, if they're taking 50%, they're taking 10, and then I'm taking 10. $7.88. I'm only making a little bit more than $2. Now, I've earned, so it's still probably a decent idea. Plus, you never, that builds up the more copies that are bought. And you never know what kind of exposure they can get you if the right person buys it. Because the way you make money off of books isn't solely the book sales, it's who buys it. It's not how many you buy, not how many are sold, it's who they're sold to. And then that's how you get appearances and other opportunities that line up, that turn out well. So I've definitely thought about that before, putting books in Rickwood Field. I definitely like the idea. Yeah, I'm rocking Brave stuff. Why? I mean, it's like, why? Freaking advertisement patch on the jersey. And it clashes with the exception of the little bit of yellow thread of the tomahawk. Wouldn't hurt to add both books to Rickwood? Absolutely not. I don't think it would. So stupid. This is my I don't think this is my first Nike MLB jersey, but it's my first Nike of like a jersey that is actually worn, because I have Nike like Shooting Star Astros jersey, like the original Shooting Star look, and it's like a cream, But yeah, this is, and this is Nike's actual template. Like you see how the neck is, it's got this little extra bit right here. You can see the braiding is on the end of the sleeve instead of being right above it. And you can see what that patch says. Because I got this jersey this year, blank back. Well, I'm gonna get to that. That's the fun part. Alternative baseball played in a ABO versus pros game that they do, and commissioner got well, I don't know how it happened, if he got them to do it or if they offered, but the Braves sponsored the game, which is really cool. And so they decided that they would give us all jerseys. They gave us all jerseys. Now, I didn't get to play in the game because the day it was supposed to be played, I think the freaking job, had me scheduled. And then the day they rescheduled it, I had to be in a wedding. But they gave us jerseys with our names and numbers on the back. So that's pretty cool. So I just got this a couple of weeks ago when I went to playing another game. I've only played in 3 games, and the third game was yesterday. Played in 1 in March, and then 2 this month, and now the season's over. But I missed out on that game. I missed out on Noonan. I missed out. They played a game here in Phoenix City, and I didn't get to go. Although I didn't get to go to that one because that was the weekend of my Houston trip. Yeah. Yeah, my name on the back. So I like this. I do. Because had I played in that game with this jersey, I might have worn this hat. Yeah, probably would have worn this hat. And I'm not sure what pants I would have worn. But I'd have worn these too. Got the Braves striped strap socks. So that'd have been cool. I mean, like that right there. What else? And then, right there. You see stirrups down there at the bottom. You can also see them on, of course, y'all know this guy I know. Dang it. Let me do it. Yeah. Tim Hudson. So yeah, that'd have been cool to wear those socks or that. Yep, Tim Hudson. Yeah. I don't know how many people really know this, but the iconic Braves look, is this one with the unique braiding that has the blue, red, blue pattern, and there's a lot of color on the jersey as opposed to other ones. And the Braves had this one up until, or similar to it at least, up until 1963, when they went to like the cream alternate jersey that the Braves have had at one point. They went to that uniform from 63 to 67. Then in 1968 through 1971, the Braves went with a pinstriped look. Like that. And, same Braves hat that they have today. You see Chief Knockahome on the sleeve there. But Braves and pinstripe. Because the Braves wanted a look that was, unique to Atlanta. They wanted to have a look that they figured, all right, we've moved to Atlanta now. Now we want to have a different look that kind of goes with us being in Atlanta now. And this did that. I think there was also a sentiment the Braves felt like they were going to be the Yankees of the South. So they wanted to have the pinstripes. So I ask Braves fans a lot of times, what do y'all think of this look? Me personally, I think if the Braves added some red trim around the Navy Braves wordmark, I think it'd be all right. I think it would be fine. I know there are probably some other Braves fans who are thinking, no, they need to stick with this. No. People don't. Yeah, so I'd like to ask Braves fans what they think of it. If they think that looks better, or if they think this one is their better look, or if they maybe think that this look is too busy and the pinstripe was better. Um, I think honestly, I think if the Braves went away from this, there'd be a lot of backlash. I think there would be. Even if they went back to that pinstripe look and trimmed the Braves in red, and really restored these more. I feel like there might be some people who say, sure, it looks good, but it's not Braves. So I get it. It's a nice jersey. Yeah, I thought about the problem is Nike screwed up a bunch of things with the uniforms. Aside from the obvious stuff with the fabrics and the see-through stuff and the names on the back, a lot of that has been fixed, thankfully. But they have this strange rule. 4 plus 1. A team can have 4 jerseys plus their City Connect. It's tough to imagine them going forward without the look they evolved to. If you're referring to this one, yeah, I think so too. So like for example, the Braves, they've got the white, they've got a red. Seen the baby blues too much. We've also seen the feather ones too much. The ones they say are the Hank Aaron jerseys, despite the fact that he actually wore them. He only wore those for 3 seasons. He actually wore that pinstripe uniform longer than he wore that feather looking one. And Aaron actually wore this design longer than any other. They were in Milwaukee, still. But yeah, so for the Braves, first of all, they got the white, the red jersey. I'm just talking about jerseys here. Pants, I think, could be different. They just have to go along. White, red, gray, and navy blue. Solid. And then they got white pants and gray pants. So they got those 4 plus their City Connect. That's all teams are allowed to have. The Astros, they have white, orange, gray, navy blue, plus City Connect. The Mariners, check this out. They've done white, teal, navy blue, and I think they're cream home alternates, plus City Connect. So that means the Mariners don't have a gray jersey. It's like, really? Like, you would think in this day and age you wouldn't have limits like that. But Nike has put those limits on. And so they hardly ever do one-off or throwback uniforms. Nike doesn't want to do it. Majestic would do it. And you've probably noticed too, with Nike, again, with the sleeve, decoration being at the end of the sleeve rather than right above it. Um, this weird thing at the neck, the belt loops. I mean, there are no real belt loops. They're all just belt tunnels all around, and they're shaped weird. If you watched baseball and you see baseball and you know what it's supposed to look like, and then you see those Nike uniforms, you just know they're off. You just know they're off. Um, it just does not look professional to me. You know, I don't even know if I'd want to see a throwback uniform put on that template. I think it would demean the throwback uniform, to be honest. So, I don't know when MLB started bowing down to Nike. Nike makes the uniforms for Major League Baseball. Major League Baseball is supposed to be telling Nike what to do. I don't know why it's the other way around. But I've also been thinking, I've had some interesting thoughts over the past week about the past few days about current baseball. And I'd like to talk to you about those after a second. Let me go get some water. Parsed for whatever reason. Of course, me and my father just had some Burger King to go for breakfast this morning, but we had a good lunch at Longhorn Steakhouse. We did do that. I got a juicy cheeseburger, man, with some strong strawberry lemonade they had. It was so strong, I about asked if did y'all make this a spiked strawberry lemonade? But I don't think they did. I think I would have smelled it more. I think I would have felt it more. But I just want to give you my thoughts once you're rehydrated too, because I have some thoughts, just some things that have come up in my mind. Oh, I see. Okay. Are you back? All right, me too. So I just want to go over some thoughts I've had. Okay. So I've been thinking. I and it actually relates to this DVD. I think I'm gonna watch it tonight. America's Classic Ballparks. But I've been thinking, just a little bit of thinking, and you know how my mind can get when it starts thinking. Or at least I do. There's certainly people in my life who have known me for a while, who are around me a decent bit, know where my mind can go once it starts a churning. Once the gears start turning on and amongst one another, instead of grinding together, they just start going and going and going. So, the Cubs, okay, the Cubs, they play at Wrigley Field. Place opened in 1914. It's a long time. In fact, last year was 110 years. It's a long time, and they've made that ballpark work. They've made it last. Right? Red Sox. Red Sox play at Fenway Park. Still. It opened in 1912. It opened the same week the Titanic sank. And it has lasted. Okay. True, in 1967, Tom Yawkey, the Red Sox owner, was thinking, we're either going to move out of here, we're either going to get a new ballpark, and we're going to leave Boston. And then the Red Sox have their impossible dream season in 1967, and the Red Sox are doing well, so they decide to kind of put a ballpark to the back burner. But Fenway Park is less, and they've improved Fenway Park to keep it modern enough to make it viable, but while still keeping the old school charm, because that's the whole point of staying there anyways. But you make it just smart enough to where then you will be able to show off the charm and the old school persona of it. Okay? So Wrigley Field and Fenway Park are both that way. I've not been to either one, although I certainly would not mind it. And we can throw out one more. Rick Wood Field. opened 2 years before that, in 1910. In fact, here's a replica poster advertising the first game ever played at Rickwood Field. Kind of cool. And Rickwood Field, just recently, went through renovation to keep it updated. The dugouts are bigger. The outfield fence is a little more substantial. It will now be preserved so it can show off even longer. It can be shown off even longer. However, I mean, we've both walked in there since they've done the renovation. You still feel like you're going back in time. You don't feel like you're walking into a new place. That's the point. Okay, those three places. I'm mainly talking about Fenway and Wrigley since they're major league ballparks. But we can throw in Rickwood Field too because it goes along with that point as well. But these ballparks, and to a lesser extent, Dodger Stadium and Anaheim Stadium, Angel Stadium, okay? Those have been preserved too, although they opened in the 1960s, okay? Everybody's country, remember? Yeah, and that's a lot of times what they try to do when working with these older ballparks, okay? But my overall point here isn't just about the ballparks, but that's where this thought begins, okay? These, and I don't know if you knew this, there's different typographies of ballparks. There's retro classic, there's retro modern, there's modern, there's contemporary. Lone Depot Park in Miami is the only contemporary ballpark in baseball, I think. Yeah, I think. Retro modern, I wouldn't say just about all of them. Retro classic is like Progressive Field, Camden Yards, the ones that try to look old, but they're not. Okay. That kind of grinds my gears a little bit. Don't try to look old. I mean, literally, it seems like ballpark construction is the only place where anybody's trying to make something look older. Who's putting on makeup in the morning saying, "Oh, I hope I look like I'm 60 years old today"? But the typography of Fenway Park and Wrigley Field, that typography is called jewel box. Jewel box parks. That includes Fenway and Wrigley. It also includes Comiskey Park in Chicago, Tiger Stadium in Detroit, Shibe Park, Connie Mack Stadium in Philadelphia, Forbes Field in Pittsburgh, Crosley Field in Cincinnati, the first Busch Stadium in St. Louis, not Busch Memorial, not where they moved out of in the 2000s. I'm talking about the ballpark they moved out of in 1966. They call it Sportsman's Park a lot of times, but in its latter days, it was called Busch Stadium. It was the first Busch Stadium. Okay. Polo Grounds, the original Yankee Stadium. Griffith Stadium in Washington, D.C. trying to think if there's any others that are applicable here. I don't know. Well, there's Ebbets Field, but that doesn't apply with what I'm with the point I'm trying to make. League Park in Cleveland, that's sort of another way. Yeah, Griffith Stadium. So, okay. So, I bring that up. And you just added on. Lots of others too. There are more than just Fenway Park and Wrigley Field. But the Cubs and the Red Sox preserve their ballparks. But the White Sox, the Tigers, the Pirates, the Reds, the Cardinals, the Phillies, Yankees, the Mets, they didn't do that. They just moved out and tore them down. Why? Because some of this is hindsight. Now looking back, we know that Fenway and Wrigley have been successful as they are. But still, can you imagine if the Cincinnati Reds today were still playing at Crosley Field and had never left? If the Chicago White Sox were still playing at Comiskey Park and had never left? If the Pittsburgh Pirates were still playing at Forbes Field and had never left? St. Louis Cardinals, still at the original Busch Stadium, had never left. The New York Mets, still today playing in the Polo Grounds just across a river from Yankee Stadium, and both teams having never left those ballparks. Can you imagine the charm that so many more fans would be able to experience? Tigers, if they'd have never left Tiger Stadium in Detroit. And it's like Tiger Stadium could have survived. That was a strong structure. Okay. I think Comiskey Park was too. I heard there were maybe issues with Connie Mack Stadium, Philadelphia, and maybe Yankee Stadium too. Well, that's probably a very good point. Yeah. But of course, Chicago, Chicago wasn't experiencing any expansion too? I mean, it was in the 1960s when the White Sox considered more than once moving out of Chicago. They considered it so seriously. In 1968 and 69, they actually played one game versus every American League opponent in Milwaukee. Because Milwaukee was trying to get a team. Chicago was thinking about moving to Milwaukee. They were going to become the Milwaukee White Sox. And I'm going somewhere else outside of just ballparks too. But this is where the conversation starts. Okay, this is where it began in my mind. Okay. And this is a valuable part of it. But if Fenway Park and Wrigley Field can have skyboxes put in them if they need to, can put a pitch clock in there, can expand some seating maybe if they need to be. If they can, don't tell me Forbes Field couldn't have been. or Chrysler Field couldn't have been, or Busch Stadium couldn't have been. And the original Yankee Stadium, I mean, um, I've made this point before because in the mid 70s, the Yankees played at Shea Stadium while they did a lot of work to Yankee Stadium. And I've seen some sources say they've differentiated the Yankee Stadium after the big renovation that the Yankees moved, that the Yankees went back to in the late 70s and then played in until 2009. I've seen some sources designate that ballpark as Yankee Stadium 2 because if you take the original Yankee Stadium, the house that Ruth built, and you compare it to the way it was after the renovation, they didn't renovate that place. They didn't renovate Yankee Stadium. They built that thing brand new. They didn't. And I think you agree, but I'm going to show you anyway. Yankee Stadium, 1960. Here, 1960s. Let's go with that. Oh, yeah. And we could go deeper into this than I'm going to also. Okay, Yankee Stadium, 1960s. Okay. See if I can find a good picture. I'm going to try to find a couple, actually. See what I can do here. Okay. Second. Yeah, exactly. That's what I mean by, we could go deeper than I'm going to. All right. So there's the original Yankee Stadium. Okay. There's three decks, 3 layers of seating, and you've got the crown facade up there at the top. There's even better look at it. I mean, look at that at the top. It looks so mythical. It just looks so legendary. It's like that looks fancier than a baseball park. But it is a baseball park. See the elegance to that whole structure, not even just the facade, but all of it. And here's some of the outside of it. You see some of the crown facade right there. The scoreboard there in right field. The expansive left center field. Short right field porch because of the railway right there. Okay. You see the timelessness of it. But then you get this. And some places tried to tell people that this was the same ballpark. There's no crown facade except for there now in the outfield. They brought the fences in. I'm not saying this place, this Yankee Stadium wasn't good. That's not what I'm saying, But, like, if fans today were to choose between either having this Yankee Stadium around and having this Yankee Stadium around, and they were to be able to experience both of them, they would come a lot closer to what they would experience going into Fenway or Wrigley in this ballpark than they would this one. Yeah, because there's history everywhere. And so, but just, so it's like, imagine if baseball kind of had kept up these ballparks, decided that they were going to really preserve what they had. Because in Europe, they do more of that. They do more preserving, whereas here in the U.S., oftentimes we just do away with something and go to something else. I'm not necessarily arguing or criticizing. I'm just saying the way it's been. But if here in America we'd have preserved those places, we have more experience. And this doesn't just apply, by the way. This doesn't just apply to jewel box parks. This doesn't just apply to jewel box parks. Hold on, let me pull up a reference of mine. So this doesn't just have to apply to jewel box parks. It can apply to some of the newer ones too. Again, as I mentioned, Dodger Stadium and Anaheim Stadium, they have pretty well been preserved too. Dodger Stadium more so. Well, I'm going to get to the Braves. But I mentioned the Angels. Anaheim Stadium doesn't look like that anymore. Anaheim Stadium doesn't have the big A as the scoreboard anymore. Now it's in the parking lot. You can't even see it when you're in the ballpark. You got the rocks in the outfield, and it looks more sterile. Now, I understand this place looks kind of plain, except for the Halo A out there. I can understand that. But, I mean, that A just did so much for that ballpark, as you can tell. I mentioned, the Dodgers, of course. And so it's not just the jewel box parks that hold history and even charm. We can, I mentioned Griffith Stadium in Washington, D.C. That's another jewel box park. The Senators, when there was a new expansion team coming in, a replacement Senators team, they built DC Stadium, which later became RFK Memorial Stadium, and that's where they played. And this ballpark doesn't exist anymore. There's the original Busch Stadium, as I mentioned. Sixth Stadium for the Seattle Pilots. They were going to be moving out of there anyway. That wasn't a permanent home. They just had to retrofit that enough until the Kingdome was built. Candlestick Park. Here's a good example. Look at Candlestick Park there. A lot of people don't remember Candlestick Park like this. Wide open in the outfield. Most people remember being all closed off because of housing football. Whereas this Candlestick Park, there was greenery out in center field, and you could see the water, the scoreboard. It was more picturesque. And so, too, was the Oakland Coliseum. Before Mount Davis, this had a good backdrop. Oakland had a good backdrop. Mount Davis run that. There's Shive Park in Forbes Field in Pennsylvania. Jack Murphy Stadium in San Diego. There's another one, The Padres played there from the beginning, and nice enough ballpark. They could probably still be playing there now. Look how colorful that place is. There's the original Yankee Stadium. And the Mets and Polo Grounds, some people don't know the Mets in 1962 and 1963, their first 2 seasons as a franchise, they played at the Polo Grounds. They played it. Imagine if that had been kept around. Honestly, you might have had to move the fences in at some point. Honestly, you might have just had to. And you might have had to move the foul poles out somehow. But, man, imagine that still being around. Jerry Park in Montreal, kind of a smaller ballpark too. Metropolitan Stadium in Minnesota. That was a modern one. If the Twins had kept playing here, this was a nice one too. If you go back and watch footage of the 1965 World Series, this place wasn't a dump. It's kind of wide open, as you see. But that's not a problem. Some ballparks are built differently. It's a nice ballpark. 1965 All-Star Game was also played in Metropolitan Stadium. And, the Twins could have maybe expanded some of the seating in the outfield up to the scoreboard here, some of the seating to wrap around the foul pole. You can do things with this. The Brewers playing at County Stadium, which is memorialized in the ballpark of American Family Field today. That's a quaint ballpark that didn't have to be torn down necessarily. Municipal Stadium for the Royals. Now, they moved into Kauffman Stadium, and Kauffman Stadium's a nice ballpark too, so that's fine. But Municipal Stadium was kind of old school as well. If they'd have been able to keep that up, that would have been a really cool, very cool place. And you see, when the Royals moved in, they painted some things blue. Utah may begin a team soon. Yeah, they got a hockey team, so maybe they'll get baseball now. And then, come on. What if the Astros had never left the Dome? I mean, shoot. You know, if Bud Adams, the owner of the Houston Oilers football team, because he said he wanted more seating in the Astrodome, or else he was going to move the team, and so the Astros tore down the home run extravaganza scoreboard, that iconic scoreboard, and then put in more seating there. And then a few years later, Bud Adams moved the football team out of there anyways. Very insulting. And so, you know, if the Astros had kept that scoreboard and maintained the dome the way that they should have, it's actually slightly better maintained today than it was back in the 90s. But, you know, you could have kept this up, and it would have been kind of an anti-jewel box park. But there's still kind of an opposite sort of charm in that way, of it being so futuristic and it being the first domed stadium. I'd love to see the Astros still playing there. Mention Tiger Stadium, Mile High Stadium in Denver. That one's in the parking lot of the Broncos stadium, but the Rockies played there to start with. That'd have been cool, because that ballpark was around for a while. Mile High Stadium, Lakefront Stadium in Cleveland. That's another one. You can see it's kind of a old school feel with the columns holding up the decks and the roof, bullpens on the field. So not a jewel box park, but still a place that could have some charm and some heritage and history to it, but can also be modernized enough to keep up with today. Crosley Field, Comiskey Park, Wrigley Field, Fenway Park. And then we'll get to two more right here. Memorial Stadium in Baltimore, where they play before Camden Yards. I mean, look at the greenery out there in center field, the trees and stuff. That ballpark, it was a good-looking ballpark. I mean, they played football here too, but that place wasn't a concrete, cookie cutter, Lakefront does look cool. Yeah. It wasn't one of the cookie cutter donuts. And you see, we haven't even covered any of those yet. Any of the cookie cutter donuts? Yeah, it's because there's only even if baseball had just kept one of them, then it would be unique for that purpose. And where should they keep that one? I say the ATL. If the Braves had stayed in Fulton County Stadium, because that's where the Braves began playing in Atlanta, and it's where they won their first World Series championship in Atlanta. And I'll admit, I would have loved to have seen the teepee in left field. And then you got the bullpens out there. It was a nice ballpark. It just became outdated because all sorts of other ballparks began to look the same. Washington, D.C., Pittsburgh, Cincinnati, Philadelphia, St. Louis, they all looked like the same cookie cutter concrete donuts. I really like this picture of Fulton County Stadium. There's the TP right there. That's the backdrop of Atlanta. There's the Capitol. I just saw that today. And there you go, man. And the bullpen's separated by a fence right there. Yeah. Bullpen covered right there. That's kind of interesting. The clock right there. You can see it a little bit. Fulton County Stadium opened in 1965 because I was talking about the Braves moving from Milwaukee to Atlanta that season, but it got pushed by a year, and so the minor league Atlanta Crackers played in Fulton County Stadium in 1965, and then the Braves moved in 1966. But yeah, I mean, so the Braves could have kept the one, circular ballpark, but it wouldn't be viewed the way those kinds of ballparks are viewed today, because it would have been the only one. And that there would be charm to that. It's hard for us to imagine that because we know how they're perceived now because they were everywhere. But if it had only been in Atlanta, might have been different. So, I don't know where Arizona would have played. But then this gets to something else too, because so we've talked about the ballparks, and where a lot of these teams could still be playing had they maintained where they were and simply updated them, and baseball would have more of a standard of preserving its history, tradition, heritage, and past. Like baseball has done a lot. But let's discuss the uniforms too. All right. We discussed the Braves a little bit, whether they go with the pinstripe look because of the new Atlanta way, or if they stick with the thick braiding look, As long as they got these, they'll pretty much be all right. This Baltimore Orioles look, the Orioles threw back to this look twice. They've thrown back to it twice. I'm going to try to pull up some pictures on Getty Images. Here. This was back in 2016. I mean, you got that. It's not much different from today. It's just the script is a little bit smaller and doesn't have the tail on it. Like that one. Jonathan Scope, you can see the Orioles pattern stirrups there. The cut should be higher, but when they threw back to the road uniforms in Seattle in 2019, I'll show you those here in a minute, those had the right cut. And then you'd have the black helmet with the red, with the orange brim on it. I see black hat, Orioles, and then the braiding pattern. And you see what I mean by this sleeve right here. The braiding isn't at the end of the sleeve, it's just before it. And then, of course, you got the belt loops here that look reasonable. And then you got the stirrups there. All right. And then you got when the Orioles and Mariners, they threw back to 1969, showing off the Seattle Pilots uniforms. The Braves fans still basketball? Yeah, probably not. But still. It's starting to sweat. All right. You can go ahead and look at a Pilot's uniform. I mean, you got the Pilot's hat right there, And the Mariners, should have went with this instead, for sure. Orioles, again, the black hat, the Baltimore script there. You see the stirrups there. This guy's pants are perfectly bloused, too. That's something else. The players should blouse their pants properly and wear them snugly enough to where they'll fit right. Better look at this. See, that's the better cut for the Orioles stirrups. Although this one right here is backwards, but this one looks good. Another look at the Pilot's look. And another look at the Sox right there. Yeah, they were. You're right, Red Rob. So, the Orioles could easily be a lot better. The Red Sox, their uniforms were pretty much fine, although in 1967 they had an extra red piping around the neck and around the sleeve. So instead of just one around the sleeve, it was two red stripes around the sleeve. One of them was at the end of the sleeve. So that was kind of a cool look. Charlotte Hornets made up an expansion team. Charlotte Knights have actually thrown back to this before. You can buy that jersey off their website. Pretty cool. Yeah. Cubs. Again, I think um, if you look at the two Cubs logos, well, look at two of them. Okay. Okay. So you look at this one. To me, the blue circle looks too thin. Right. And if you look at this one, it looks too thick. Whereas if you go from 1970, maybe into the 80s or so, this one is just about right. That one's just about right. This isn't a button-up jersey, but like there's the logo right there. So if you have this, but then you keep it button up and you don't have the blue trim around the neck and sleeves and stuff. The traditional uniform. Even the name on the back looks fine there. There you go. That's what the Cubs could look like. It looked good. Greatest Cub of all time? Probably Ernie Banks. That's just my view of it. And then the road uniform. Really, the only red you would see on the road uniform would be on the C, on the cap and the helmet. White Sox. Get rid of the gray trim on the home uniform. Then the road uniform. How about this? Use white lettering on there, if you can see that. I'd say the same with Bill Murray as a close second. Bill Murray, the comedian. Let's see. But yeah, I like the White Sox being a black and white team. Even here, you can see white stirrups with black cemetery socks. That'd be interesting. And of course, Comiskey Park. The Reds. This is another uniform that the Reds threw back to. Yeah, I mean, there you go. The early Big Red Machine days before the pullover jersey and elastic waistband pants. There you go. Number. The red Washington, yeah, I agree. Then plain red stirrups, black shoes too. Of course, that's something else. It's one thing to have a good looking uniform, then it's another thing to wear it properly, which is kind of a different conversation. Cleveland, whether it be the Indians or the Guardians, I really don't care at this point. But check this out. They had these, had the vests. But I think, if we're talking about wanting to maintain baseball's tradition while updating things so it can be viable today, here's a good compromise when it comes to the vests. This right here. It's a jersey with sleeves, but the sleeves are colored. Some people may say it could look a little cheap, but if you do it right, I think it can look good. So for the Pirates, they could go back to that. And if there's concern about not having room for the names on the back, you can just look at the Diamondbacks. If they went back to this uniform, see Diamondbacks have thrown back to that uniform, and you can see they still have room for the name on the back. So I think you could be good there. And so for Cleveland, I think they should do that too. Is be red. Bring back their stirrup socks that are close to the the Feather Edge design, actually. 3 of them. Yeah, exactly. The Pirates do look good. I actually really like the Guardians. This new look they came out with red around the braiding, because it used to be just blue around the neck and sleeves. Now they've added some red too. I like that. So if you just color the sleeves red and then put that cuff around the shoulder, the Guardians could look good with a colored sleeve jersey, I think. Denver Bears, that'd be black and red. Pretty simple there. Instead of the Rockies, if they'd went with the Denver Bears, because the Los Angeles Angels were a minor league team, so when they got a major league team, they took that name. San Diego Padres were a minor league team, so when they got a major league team, they took that name. Denver Bears could have done the same thing. Miami Marlins did that too. Detroit Tigers, pretty well no frills, just the same feather edge sock design they had in the early 70s. And word mark that they had with orange trim. Just bring that back. Cool to have a little bit of orange on the road. Definitely not at home, though. The only option I'd say for the home uniform, maybe put 3 white stripes on the socks, because they're Tigers, you wouldn't have stripes. But even then, wouldn't have to do that. Astros, I have discussed this enough. We all know the 1971 Astros look is the best one. And now, of course, again, what I'm talking about, I'm not even talking about, having to, I'm talking about putting this on today's current uniforms, barring all the Nike stuff that I've already been talking about that they shouldn't be doing. I'm not saying go back to a wool uniform. I'm saying these teams should have stuck with these looks from the beginning on, and then you have that sort of tradition in there, you know. Um, and then you'd have that standard. And I've shown you this slideshow before. I think the Royals they threw back to that look in Washington D.C. What? Oh, shoot. Oh, here we go. So the Nationals actually threw back to the Expos this day. But if you can see right there, I mean that Expo stuff still looks good. See that hat right there in the middle of the screen? It's another picture of Juan Soto swinging. Juan Soto goes with the Nationals. You can see, so both the Expos and the Royals, they even threw back to the bullpen card on this particular day. I mean, look at that. They even used the bullpen card and made it look like the Expos on this day. And then that's the Kansas City Royals original design. I like that script. Decided to pause. Give Fred Room some time. That's good. Going back to the Expos. Oh, there you go. Okay. So, I mean, the Expos looks good on this day. Let's give it a little bit, but the Royals wore their road uniform on this day too. And so there you can see that script. You know, that wouldn't be hard for them to go back to at all. And then ideally, of course, you'd have the Expos. I don't know if they played Jerry Park. They more likely played Olympic Stadium because Jerry Park probably wasn't supposed to be a permanent venue either. Oh, thanks. Then the Angels, back when they first came around, the halo on the cap. I've shown you the hat I have of that one. One of the best hats in Major League history. My closest friend says he thinks that might be the ugliest hat he's ever seen. The guy's freaking bonkers. And then, if you can see the stirrups there, having red and blue. Let's see if I can. That picture saved somewhere. I'm pretty sure. Yeah, there you go. You see, the top of the sock is blue, and then where the cut is red. That's the Angels. See a little bit of the halo on top. Yeah, so that could look good. Dodgers, they've always looked good. Only thing with them, wear the gray Los Angeles jersey more on the road and take off the bit of blue piping on the sleeve of the Los Angeles jersey. I don't know why that's there. They need to take it off. I mean, I've seen a jersey, a Shohei Ohtani jersey, that doesn't have that. I don't even know if that would be the jersey you'd get, but you can see on the sleeve it doesn't have the blue piping on there. And that looks good. That's what the Dodgers should be wearing. You got the red number on the front, blue on the back. Looks good. And then, of course, the classic blue stirrup socks. Now, if Miami, been kind of cool if they played at the Orange Bowl. I mean, there are other teams that played it in football stadiums. Orioles played at Memorial Stadium. Probably would have been similar to that. And Miami had some good looks, too. The Marlins, Sun Sox, wherever you want to be. Probably teal, orange, and maybe some black. Probably their best color scheme. And the Brewers, I have this there. The Brewers, though, actually look good. as they are today. I mean, if you look at look at their jerseys. There's the road one. And then the pinstripe one. Yeah, but this jersey right here is great because the Seattle Pilots moved to Milwaukee and became the Brewers, and the Pilots were royal and blue. But to me, then if you keep the Seattle Pilots in royal and blue, and then the Brewers in navy and blue, then you're good. And I like the pinstripe better than the cream look. I like that look right there. Now, I do like the script on the home jersey here that you see on the Brewers. I like that script on the 1990 jersey. But even if you stick with this right there, that's fine. So the Brewers are actually doing pretty well. Again, just a matter of wearing the uniform properly. Twins, the same. Pinstripe look they've had before, their original uniform. The Killebrew Oliva days. They had that look, and they should have kept it. As well as, I'm trying to find a good picture. Well, I guess that's what I do. the TC logo on the stirrup socks there. Twins have had that for some time. I actually sent them some mail asking if I could have some, and they never got back to me. I did that to the Cardinals one time, and they sent me a pair. But yeah, you want to have that on the socks for the Twins. I already discussed the Expos. The Mets home uniform looks good. I don't know what they did to their road uniform this year. Usually they got the blue piping down the placket. Now they've got blue and orange on the sleeves, and that's it. It looks very weird. According to a jersey listing on MLBshop.com, there's a chance they could be going back to that this year or next year, but we don't know. Yankees made a great decision going back to their original road uniform. I just wish for the home uniform on the jersey that they used a set-in sleeve rather than a raglan sleeve. If you look at Yankees jerseys today, the pinstripes start right here rather than starting right here. I don't even know if you know what I'm referring to. But this right here. You see how the pinstripes start here, but then so these pinstripes right here start almost below the shoulder. It looks a little off. Whereas usually there's a seam right about here at the shoulder. And so these pinstripes curve all the way back behind on the back side of the jersey. And so it just looks more natural than this does. I still don't even know if I understand it or not. I know it's kind of weird, but that's just what I think. Oakland, again with the vest, you can just color the sleeves green. Yellow sanitary socks, and the only team that should wear white shoes. So, okay, you do understand. Okay, cool. And then again, Oakland, Sacramento, Las Vegas, I don't care where they are, but you put that on the road jersey. I've even seen this recently. Sacramento jersey, yeah. So maybe they can take that script and put it on the jersey. One more Coca Cola, all right. I'll try to hustle through them then. The Phillies, Pirates. You can just look at the looks here. Padres, their original 1969 look with the striped stirrups and braiding on the neck sleeves and pants. Giants bring back the orange stripes on the stirrups. Get rid of the gold shadow on the lettering. Pilots, of course. Cardinals look good. Rangers, But then I'd also say you can expand to 32 teams. The Astros need to go back in the National League. Brewers need to go back in the American League. Washington, D.C. needs to go back in the American League. And then you bring back the Expos. And then you have 31 teams if you bring back the Expos, or if they'd have never left. And so then you'd have Charlotte. But you could have any other team too if you wanted to, and I don't guess that really matters. Just something that looks good. But the most important part about it The most important part is how the players are wearing the uniform. You can have a good-looking uniform, but it's like today, it's hard to see it being called a uniform because players wear it in so many different ways. I don't want to sound too much like a fuddy-duddy here, but when you got players with different length undershirt sleeves, sometimes even different colors, and too much body armor, which I think is silly. Now players can get belts in different colors. And then, I don't know if you've seen it, but I made a video talking about how to properly blouse baseball pants. Every player should be getting their pants their uniform tailored at the beginning of the season, and particularly their pants, to where they can do that. Again, I talk about it in that video, mid shin levels where the bottom should go down to, and you can blouse it properly without any problem. Every glove has this color. Every bat has this color. Now, I understand the accessorizing and wanting to have fashion freedom and stuff. I get that. But at the same time, I also understand and appreciate having that uniformity, having everybody look the same. It's a clean look when everybody looks alike in a way. And you differentiate yourself with a number or name on the back and how you played, It's Major League Baseball. I would think there should be a standard for how you should look. It shouldn't look like, some of the alternative baseball games I play in where so many different people are wearing different shirts or different colored shoes, or looks like a hodgepodge. And every year it looks more and more like that at the big league level. You would think the highest level would have a standard like that. All undershirt sleeves should be the same color. If you're gonna have any sleeves, they have to be that color. Pants got to be bloused with the stirrups showing, the shoes made with the flap going over the laces to protect the knot in the shoes, everything like that, some extra padding. Because appearance does give off a first impression. And so, I don't know. So, when it comes to teams' ballparks, teams' uniforms, if a lot of ballparks and then uniform designs and uniform tendencies had teams stuck with them from their beginnings and just held on to them, baseball would look a lot better today. Because it's probably hard to root for a team when it doesn't look like a team. It looks like a bunch of individuals. Oh, but they happen to be wearing the same shirt. First impressions leave a lasting impression. Absolutely. Of course, don't even get me started on advertisements on the jersey. But then you maintain these standards and you uphold these aesthetics in a modern way. The fabric of the uniform can still be a performance fabric. It doesn't need to be wool. You can still have a video scoreboard, in the ballpark. You can still have, modern technology in the shoes to make them comfortable. Just, make them all black, You update the standard. You don't change it. But nobody ever thought about it. I'm going to take this off. Actually, I probably won't watch this DVD, honestly. Not tonight, anyways. Plus, who would want to turn down a good-looking strap sock like this? I mean, if every Braves player came out on the field wearing these one day, wouldn't it just put a smile on your face, even just for a minute, even if you don't really care that much? Oh, wait. I just got something. Wow. Check this out. I literally just got this in email. Literally just got it. This is the recording. As long as I'm winning, it wouldn't bother me. I suppose I understand that. Apparently, this recording is up.
Go, go, Astro! Here come the Astros, burning with desire. Here come the Astros, breathing orange fire. Here come the Astros, with winning on their mind. Here come the Astros, number one every time. Go, go, Astros! Go, go,
This episode is brought to you by Generate Solutions, your go-to AI experts specializing in empowering commercial real estate companies and environmental consulting firms. As AI is quickly, don't let your workflows and quickly to its level with solutions in the bio. On to our
edition of a conversation. Good afternoon and welcome to another edition of a conversation with John Canena. And today we go down that road of something that everybody knows I like besides sports and everything
I'm not going to watch the whole thing right now, but I'm just going to look at a little
else.
bit of it.
And of course, the daily routine of life. But this one is the Day of the Author. And today we are here with a young gentleman named Samuel Barrett, who wrote a book called Orange Crush. It's about the neglected 1971 Houston Astros. So for all you Chicago people that are looking in today, you're going to say, why is John so interested in the Astros? Well, I'll tell you why. This is the book that we're going to talk about today with this author, Samuel Barrett. This book depicts the 1971 season. And when I got the book and I went back in and I started to look at it and everything else, boy, it brought me back to a time where I said to myself when I was reading this, those 1971 Houston Astros weren't too bad. If you put them on paper and everything else, they look pretty good. And some of the players that they lost, we're going to touch base with Sam. Sam has written a book previously called, his first book was The Umpire Diary, his personal journey and experiences being an umpire career. Sam, good afternoon and welcome to a conversation with John Canena. And what's going on with you?
Well, thank you very much. Glad to be here, spend some time with you. Right now, I've been doing fine, just doing a little bit of publicity in regard to Orange Crush. It was great to, I started the publicity of launching Orange Crush back the third or fourth weekend of September. I went to Houston and I I sold copies from a table at the Astros game on September 20th when the Astros were playing the Mariners. And then I also spoke at the Houston chapter of the Society for American Baseball Research 2 days later on Monday, the 22nd. And that weekend, I sold more copies of this just during the launch weekend than I've sold of Umpire Diary total. And so I don't know if that means that Orange Crush is doing very well, or if it means that Umpire Diary has really not done very well. But I'm pleased with with how Orange Crush has been received so far, regardless.
Well, I'll tell you, when I was turned on to you by another great author, William Bike, who wrote the book about the 1970 Chicago Cubs, which I know you have in your diary there too, Go and Glow, which was kind of based off that. William Bike told me, John, you're going to like the conversation with Sam. And when I got the book from you, probably now a little bit over a month ago, it really took me back to a time, because I want you to know, young man, that was my era. And I saw them play the Chicago Cubs in the Astrodome and saw them, watch them a lot. And it was a team that was like, just being at that time watching the Cubs, the Astros were a thorn to the Cubs. And now I know why they were the thorn, because I go back and look at some of those players. I mean, we talk about Cedeno, we talk about Bob Watson, we talk about Doug Rader, we talk about Metzger, Morgan, you name it. Johnny Edwards, a great catcher, was a great leader in the clubhouse. And of course, Durker and the toy cannon, Jimmy Wynn. I mean, I might have depicted that whole team right now. And of course, a guy that I couldn't stand, but came from three brothers, and they were all three great hitters. And at one time, we're in the San Francisco outfield at the same time, Jay Alou, who was just a pesky guy. But my first question of the day, which really fascinated me because without seeing Sam Barrett, not knowing who you were, like you didn't know who I was, here's this young man
Like I know
talking about
who's
a
who.
season that could have been a team that went 79 and 83, 11 games out. And you look at that record and you're like, wow, they lost some games that they could have been in first place. I mean, when I look at it, what makes a young Sam Barrett write about the 1971 Houston Astros, and how does this start?
Well, I'll answer that question by kind of restating it in the way I get the most often. What makes a guy in his early mid? No, I can't say I'm in my early 20s anymore. I turned 25 last week, and I'm not sure I'm comfortable with that, but it is what it is.
You want to
So
switch?
So what makes a guy in his 20s who's lived in Alabama all his life write about a team 50 years behind his time, a, a, maybe 1,000 or so miles away, where if I were to drive there, it would take 12 hours? What makes me write about that? Well, the connection with South Texas, with Houston, comes from my father's side. My paternal grandfather was his family's from like Giddings, Texas, a small town between Austin and Houston, not too far from Brenham, where Bluebell Ice Cream is headquartered.
Okay.
And he was in the Air Force, which is they do most of their training in San Antonio at Randolph Air Force Base. And my father was born in 1966 in San Antonio. I think while my grandfather was in the Air Force. And they lived in Texas City, which is south of Houston, but just a tad bit north of Galveston, for from 19 well, no, from the time my dad was born there. They lived in Texas City up until 1975, and then they started moving around. They went to San Jose, California, Pensacola, Florida, Muscatine, where the kid are, but they started going around. But so my father's side of the family originates there in South Texas and the greater Houston area, and some San Antonio too, because of the military experience from my grandfather. So that's the connection there. And so my father he actually turned 5 in 1971. Unfortunately, that's just a little too young to remember stuff like that. And I don't think they were huge baseball fans. They didn't mind baseball, but they weren't huge into it. So it's not like my grandfather or father knew much to help out with the research. But I got a lot of people who could. And so that's the connection as far as what gets me into it. And as far as seeing what about a team like the 1971 Astros, what makes them stand out, a team with a 79-83 record that finishes 11 games behind first place? You can make the case for writing a book about the 1970 Cubs. They were 5 games out, they finished in second place. And there's other books too. There's probably half a dozen books about the 1969 Cubs. But so when it comes to the 1971 Astros, it's a larger study than just 1971. If you go back and watch my presentation to the Houston Sabre chapter, which is on YouTube, I begin my presentation by saying it's not a conversation to be had in a vacuum, meaning it's not just look at 1971 only. You have to go back. And it's easy to do with the Houston franchise because they began this is during the expansion era. They were an expansion franchise that began playing 1962. Granted, it's the Colt 45s. Oh, gosh, do I ever
the same franchise? And so you go back and you look and you see how, according to Tal Smith, between 1961 and 1973, the Astros signed and developed more major league players than any other ball club in baseball did during those years. And you see the amount of those players that went on to be all-stars or borderline Hall of Famers, and of course, one Hall of Famer. And you see the development over the course of the years as the Astrodome opens.
giving the team a home field advantage. When AstroTurf is put in there, giving them another home field advantage, which comes into play here. And then you see how that builds up, and you can see the on-field play, increasing, because even expansion franchises typically don't do very well to begin with. But comparatively speaking, the Houston franchise were a fairly successful one. In the first few seasons, they were finishing ahead of the expansion Mets. Of course, they were also finishing ahead of the Cubs, a well-established franchise. And that, it kind of shows how initially the franchise in the expansion draft picked up some veterans, but also some young guys too that could develop. And then, of course, when you have Tal Smith, who's over the scouting department and over the farm system, and you've got Paul Richards as a general manager, these guys are sort of mastermind folks.
With many years with the White Sox and everything else. Sure.
Yeah, he's a catch around manager. So Richards was definitely a baseball guy. And so you can see how those two guys in particular can kind of be masterminds to formulate a roster and an organization that will, if you have enough really good players, the law of averages is going to dictate you're going to get some really good pieces out of it. As long as the Astros sure did. And by the late 60s and early 70s, you could see how the fruit could really begin to blossom when you have actually, I've heard Alex Jones give a lot longer answers to questions. Although the difference is the stuff Alex Jones talks about is stuff that's like real world stuff. Here I am talking about the hypotheticals of a baseball team that was over 50 years ago. More expansion in 1969, which thins out the talent.
Montreal and San Diego.
Divisions come into play, so you're no longer competing against the entire league. You're only competing against half the league. But then when that's offset by the Astros' own general manager trading away nearly half the core, it felt like, it's no wonder the beginning of 1969, the Astros get swept by the Padres. They only scored one run the whole series, and they went 4-20 during the month of April in 1969. And I've listened to an interview Larry Durker did one time with Mike Acosta, former Astros team historian, and Durker said he felt like in 1969, if you take out April and September, the Astros might have been the best team in baseball. I haven't gone to do the math and calculate that, but maybe it's true. And so
for a sec. I just want to stop you for a second. The way you're breaking this down, I felt
he even had
if there was anything with the Astros, and of course, like I said, I watched them against the Cubs, and they were always a thorn. A lot of teams couldn't match up with the Astros. Is that a good analogy? Saying, like, wow, the Astros were, I felt like a team that was in every game and we're just missing something, whatever the ingredient is. Do you agree?
Yeah. I guess the better answer is yes and no. They were missing it, but not at different, because at first, when the franchise is developing, you're missing experience. That's all you're missing. You've got to get your experience. Then when the players were getting experience, then they were in Montreal, they were in Cincinnati, they were in other places because they've been traded by then. At that point, you were missing the players that you already had. Just leave, sit, stay pat, and they'd have been all right. They'd have been, contenders. You already said it seemed like the Astros were in every game. And I mean, they were a lot of times. A lot of the kind of the issue with the Astros in the late 60s, early 70s, most of their record mainly hovered around 500. 1969, they finished at 500. It seemed like any good was offset about the same amount of not good. And it just,
in a way, they weren't missing anything.
A division pennant.
They had it. They just got rid of it.
To offset, you have to have the wins be more than the losses at some point.
Exactly. By that, by the year of the course that we're going to talk about, 71, I mean, this is an all-star caliber lineup that's out on that field. I mean, it's just like, wow. And the pitching staff, when you guys like, we mentioned Wilson, Durker. Of course, Durker was like our Ferguson Jenkins here in Chicago. I mean, he was a mainstay guy. To go back to you, and of course, your dad being 5 years old, you said in 71, was this because when they were there, then of course he talked about the Astros a lot? What, triggers Samuel Barrett?
So I really became a baseball fan in 2013. I started watching the Braves. And then in 2015, here's what I do. This is on the YouTube page, John Canena. Let's see here. I'll put this link here. I also am going to plan to put this in a community post, as well as probably also my blog too. Tomorrow. I'll do it tomorrow so people will be awake when I put it out there. It'll give them something to start their week with. And then Tuesday, I'm actually hoping to do it tomorrow. I'm hoping to rearrange that. But Houston Sports Talk with Robert Land, a prominent Houston sports YouTube page. I'm going to be doing a show with him too, which would be great. Anyways, so I've nerded out enough tonight, the 18th. Yeah, that's when we're scheduled to right now. I'm hoping to do it on the 17th. But right now, we've got it lined up for the 18th. Yeah, I just want to mention a little bit some of the stuff I've been thinking about with if teams had stayed in the ballparks and updated them, if teams had stuck with their uniform designs and tendencies and stuck with them and modernized them while keeping the charm, Major League Baseball would look a lot better, I think. But then I just got that email that recording had been put up, so that's great. So if you want to check that out, that's cool. And I know you said that you were one more Coca-Cola away from calling it for the night. I think I'm about ready to do that myself. Appreciate you hanging around with me. And I may have sort of a busy week this week. But I guess that's my sign for me to go ahead and wrap this up. I will see you next time. All right, appreciate you, man. I'm gonna go ahead and end this. Make sure clear. Okay. It says there's 3 people watching. I don't know who those 3 probably are. Don't tell me. All right, Ron, appreciate you. And I'll send a message to Joshua about your copy of Orange Crush, and I'll definitely find time to get you a bookmark and sign it for you.